Hey, um, can't sleep, so, um, I'm just gonna talk about these two things that are just kind of like on my mind, okay? So, um, and both of these things are like kind of mixed bags, not really 100% enthusiastically positive about, for sure, um, and, you know, maybe negative, maybe somewhat. I'm working on being like a little less negative and cynical. But I want to explain, like, kind of how I feel about these things. Uh, so sports. Um, I mean, you can look at me and tell I'm not the biggest like athlete, right? Um, but I could have fun, kicking a ball around, playing kickball or, I could have fun doing those things and stuff. I'm not saying, that those things can't be fun, but, mm, I, in my old school, in my old university, um, there was some very well known, um, ball players, and they were very, they were very good. They were very talented, um, and they were treated on at the university as celebrities, kind of. Um, which when I happened to see one of these players, I thought it was kind of cool too. I'd be like, oh, that's that guy, but um, I remember like one day on the last day of finals, uh, like I saw one of these like famous players, I guess, and he was entering the anthropology building for the first time, on the day of the finals, and I was kind of like, because everybody on campus pretty much um, would know him. So I was like, and then I was like, it was like, and I guess I don't know. I think I don't know. Like it's almost like these people are like, I'm using a buzzword here, like love bombing into to a certain extent, but uh, I just I mean sometimes that can lead to like some very entitled and shit, and it can also lead to like, I feel like, what happens when if you get injured or something, if you're injured, if everybody's just been like worshiping you, and then you get injured and you like nobody gives a fuck anymore or something like that. I just, and there's so much pressure uh in the world when you're an adult, and I'm not saying kids shouldn't have pressure, but it seems like the very best of the best, you know, they have the most pressure, and it's like kind of, I feel like it's kind of not fair in a way. Like, they're the best of the best. And so, like, it's like every single fuck up. I know how it feels to, like, be really hard on myself. And, I don't know. I like the idea of, like, younger people being able to at least, like, not have to deal with that amount of pressure. But uh you know people enjoy what they enjoy. um so who am I to tell anyone, don't chase your dream to be, a famous athlete? Because you could get injured and kind of feel very lost if you kind of, if you make that your career, because it's a very, it's very competitive. And for every, I don't know fucking sports anymore, but for every superstar, there's people that hurt themselves, or you know failed, and maybe didn't take other things seriously enough, because they're like, they're gonna be an athlete or whatever. And it's just such a, like, it seems like such a pipe dream, kind of, that, like, I don't know. um but of course, physical activity, exercise, um camaraderie, I'm not saying there's nothing positive, but when you also throw in, like, huge amounts of money into the equation, um I don't know, I feel like I can get, like too much, because it's supposed to be fun. And I don't quite understand, since I'm not really an athlete. And um my achievements, like, academically, I've never, like, felt any kind of, like, like, greatness, or anything. I've I don't know what it would feel like to, I guess, be very successful and have everyone applauding you, and all that sort of thing. But so some people really uh like that, I guess. And but it's just kind of like, what about when it's, nothing lasts forever? Are you, what about when it's over? I don't know. um and I don't know, like, esports is becoming, like, kind of a thing. And I mean, I don't really know that there's, like, a whole lot of risk of, like, injury necessarily. uh I mean, carpal tunnel. But I don't know, sometimes I wonder, you know uh if it's actually good for the players, like, the talent. Like, is it going to be something that in the future is going to be like a big positive for them and like, valuable for them and like, I would hate that, sometimes that's the thing about esports. It's kind of like, I guess, regular sports. It's like, there's a limited time period, I think, for the most part, of like, uh, there's a limited time period there that you do that, or you can do that. Um, I don't know a whole lot about esports. I know, like, in sports, there's quite a history of corruption in, and uh, I don't know about too much. Like, I don't know too much about esports or sports, but um, I'm not really sure about like any kind of corruption in esports. It's just like, I do uh hope that people don't, it's just such an unlikely thing to happen. um and I feel like just people like get so into it, and like they want it as that's what they want to do or something, and I just don't think like it's um I mean, it's just, it doesn't seem like it's a very safe bet, I guess, to sort of uh to make your career. But you know they can use their own minds and figure that much out, I'm sure. I think that uh anyone in that scene understands the sort of limited time period, and I guess the volatility and the quickly changing nature of it and everything. So you know it's adults having fun, but it's just not really my, yeah, it's not my, I don't get too into it. uh I guess, for the most part. I mean, sometimes I'll get a little excited, you know. Um, but for the most part, like, the enthusiasm of the people around me in any kind of sporting event is usually like really high, and um mine is a little more like, you know, I'm not quite as into it, but I don't know. And um I don't know, government organizations, because I was just thinking about this when I called the sheriff's office, to sort of like, I was basically just complaining that I felt like the cops did nothing, or didn't do like what they should have done. And I don't know why I bothered, because I know what the fucking answer is all the time. They almost never do anything because they can't do anything. And and then if you say, oh well, yeah, it's almost pointless to say, to like be like, oh well, you should have done this, that would have been part of your job also. But that message isn't necessarily going to get through. because, they don't really give a shit, what I'm, I'm sure they have like tons of complaints, like they don't think this person did their job well, they don't think that person did their job well, or whatever. And, like, I'm not saying it's not true. Like, a lot of times, most of the time, those police do nothing. But, like, sometimes it's because, something does have to happen, you know, for them to do something, and kind of has to be, like, some kind of evidence or something. So, eh, I don't know. And like government agencies like say CPS um like have really like sort of oversights and poor communication and poor follow through and all that kind of shit that always happens in every government organizations. For organizations like Child Protective Services and shit, like that ends up with like kids in really scary situations that they shouldn't be in. Um and we're paying these people, you know, but there's just, you can call and report something, um but make someone you can't like make sure that that person tells another person who, make sure they send the email that gets put into the, a lot of times, like I haven't worked for the government, but I've worked for a lot of like really inefficient kind of companies, or at least in my opinion inefficient. It's probably like way better than some of like the what the government does, but uh you know in some cases, um under understaffing, overload of work, um no funding, or limited funding, uh these are issues that can also, um pretty much cause, it kind of puts the employees in a sort of, it can put the employees in like kind of a shitty position, um and a lot of times you do end up with a lot of people who don't give a shit, because they're the only ones who can like come in there and handle like the being so understaffed or so overworked or so bogged down by like meaningless paperwork and regulations and all this shit that, uh, uh, like I said, I haven't actually worked in one, but I have read into some, particularly like I said, CPS. I don't know a whole lot about, you know, every government organization, but in cases where children were harmed and CPS was aware of a situation and did not intervene, that's when things start. Oh well, we don't have enough funding. We don't have enough people. We get too much. We have too many cases. So it's, I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's like iffy, because we need to, how do we hold them accountable? You know, because as taxpayers, we are paying for these services, and when these people like don't do their jobs, like what can you do? You know, like what can you do? How do citizens hold government organizations accountable? Um, you know, it's just it seems uh it seems kind of impossible, honestly. Um, but I don't know, like demanding answers, like why was this case mishandled so badly? Um, you know, what other cases are being handled this badly? You know, um, I don't know. I saw a video like about U.S. immigration earlier, and sort of how it was a little bit of a confusing video. I didn't really understand exactly what the issues there, except that you know, there was like some weird reasons that you know, I don't know what immigration makes them decide like who was allowed to come in and who was not allowed to come in or whatever. So I don't know, I just found that video kind of confusing. um but I imagine for, you know, people who are coming from tough situations and they want to like start over in America, and they, you know, they want to do it legally, you know, the correct way, but you know, it can be very difficult, and often, you know, um, you know, illegal immigration can also happen. You know, when it's kind of like, well, it's kind of like a weird situation. Like, oh, immigration won't fucking let anyone in, or what? Like, they're just, you know, how are they picking and choosing who can come in and da 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 da, and you know, people saying, fuck it, I'm just coming in anyway. You know, I don't know, but I don't know what the situation with immigration is, or uh like what determines like who they let in, or how many people they let in, or where they come from, or like what actually matters. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Like if I'm particularly that interested in kind of going further into it, because I just kind of assume like, I don't know, maybe they're just not letting a lot of people in because of like the some other situation, you know? I don't know. Or I don't but that's the thing, is like I don't work there, and you know, I don't really know the ins and outs of how it works or why certain decisions were made. And I think those kind of things are kind of it's kind of hard to understand from uh from the outside perspective, and it might even be hard to understand from the inside. I couldn't imagine working for one of these places and like keeping my sanity. But I don't know. Anyway, That's it. Bye.